Okay. Quite a delay, it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we're good.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. I'm going to shut the sound off here so I don't mess myself up.
Do you guys have sound now?
I could hear me for a minute there.
Okay. Because Lee says no sound.
Oh, yeah.
Scott says no sound. We have sound now.
Thanks, Scott.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Welcome, everybody. Good to have you back. We're going to start out. Again, I'm Ted with Inergy. Jared is our president. And we've got another round of questions that have come in. We've also got a few that are left over from the last live stream. And so we're going to jump in. One thing we wanted to do really quickly, for a lot of you, you might not know about the company, about who we are, how long we've been around. And Jared's been here since the beginning, and I'll let Jared kind of give you just a brief history.
Sure. So, the company's about 6 years old. We started out in a garage. Honestly, it was 3 people in a garage working on a very, very full-time basis with next to nothing to work with. And that was 6 years ago, and we've grown since then. So we started out with our first crowdfunding campaign. We actually did a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign when there was just 3 of us that worked at Inergy. There was our head engineer, myself, and then the co-founder, Brad. And we did that crowdfunding project on Kickstarter really to see if there was a market for products like this out there. And we were blown away when we got, I think it was 40 grand in pre-orders, which kind of blew our mind at the time. And so that was validation for us. And we kind of started this whole company because there was a need among solar customers for, something smaller that wasn't as expensive as a residential solar, off-grid system. That's why we started Inergy. And then we just kind of, we tested the waters with our first crowdfunding campaign. And then our second crowdfunding campaign we followed up with about 1.5 years later. And that's where we finally kind of hit the big time on Indiegogo with our second campaign for the Kodiak. And then we've just kind of rolled one into the other and kept growing over the years. So we've grown from a team of about 3 people to about 30 today. And it's been kind of just one of those small Eastern Idaho success stories, I guess you could say. So we've grown from one little cramped office where we actually grew in that one little cramped office where we had, I think at one point we had 12 people, and it was about the size of our conference room now. We were jammed in there. With one person got sick, everybody got sick. And then we're in our own nice big building here, and yeah, here we are today.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. So yeah, we've heard from you guys that there's a little bit of a reverb, and we're working on that. It sounds like it's getting better. Jeffrey Harris says it's perfect, so hopefully that's been sorted out. Thank you, Cody, for the help on the AV. So we've got a lot of questions to get through, and we'll just jump right in. And it's so easy to get caught up in talking about the specs of these things, and will it do this, and how many watts can you draw with this, and all that. And it's good to remember, and this is 2 actual questions we got. It's good to remember what these things are for. So these questions are, why do people buy these, and what do people use these for? And so I think we can tag team this question, and a lot of you chime in if you want. If you've got uses that you use these for, please share with everybody else that's on the live stream as well. But these some people call them solar generators. A lot of people don't like that term. We call them portable solar power station, and you can use these things basically to take power wherever you need it, whenever you need it, and you can replenish it almost anywhere, whenever you need it, with solar panels, with power from a 110, 120 wall outlet, or from your car. And the unique thing about the Flex is that you can do those at the same time. You could charge a Flex We'll get into that a little bit more later, but you can charge a Flex with two powers with both of those at the same time. I personally have used my Flex to power my refrigerator and my Wi-Fi and my home office during an 8-hour power outage. I did a video about that. I haven't used the Flex to do that yet, but the Apex, that's a very common thing that you can do. You can use it to prevent your food from spoiling in a power outage. Let's see. Man, there's just so many uses.
You know, the thing that I was going to say, these products are kind of like a instead of a gas generator.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the right way to think of these products. Now, if you were to go out to like your local sporting goods store or hardware store and pick up a gas power generator or a fuel power generator, you're probably going to get more power output at one time compared to a product like ours. Our product outputs 1,500 watts continuously. I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty. But it's pretty easy to go out and get a gas power generator that's going to output 3,000, 4,000 watts at any one time. But the big difference with what it is that we do with our products versus what you get with like a fuel-based generator is that, number one, you don't have to maintain it. There's absolutely no maintenance on these products. Number two, they're virtually silent. All that you really have in a product like this is a cooling fan that runs sometimes. They're virtually silent. We'd love to say silent, but it's like there's that little, small amount of ambient noise that they create. And then number three, there's no fuel. Obviously, you get unlimited power from the sun using solar panels. You never have to worry about running out of fuel. You never have to worry about maintenance with oil changes. They're completely safe. You don't have to worry about toxic fumes, noise, all those kinds of things you'd have with like a traditional fuel-based generator. And just to kind of talk about it as just a person and not necessarily a representative of the company, like my wife at home, she's a very non-technical person. I know a lot of people that we sell products to aren't technical people, and this is a great way to provide power to things like refrigerators, lights, communication for like internet, modems, cell phones, laptops, all those kinds of things with just the press of a power button. I mean, you don't have to worry about starting an engine, worrying about what fuel it's got in it. Is the fuel still stable? Is the fuel still good? Have I changed the oil recently? How's my spark plug? You don't have to worry about any of that. It's literally just turnkey, push a power button and you're up and ready to go. And so for like my family at home, even my youngest, I've got a 6-year-old at home, she can pick up our products and carry them around no problem. They're lightweight and they're just a lot more approachable than a fuel-based generator.
Yeah.
So.
And for those of you who are asking about lifetime or cost of ownership of one of these versus a gas generator, we're working on some content to answer that question, and we'll share that as soon as possible. But when you look at these things over their lifespan, and you have the maintenance, the fuel of a gas generator, and you have a portable solar power station, they end up being very, very even. In some cases, you could say that you have a lower cost of ownership overall with solar. So we have a lot of great questions coming in. Let's jump in, and let's jump into why should I buy a modular versus an all-in-one? And there are a lot of really great all-in-ones out there. We're not going to spend a lot of time knocking anybody else's product. But we have there's some specific reasons why we decided to go to a modular system. We'll talk about those now.
So the big difference in the modular system is that obviously the batteries, that's what has the most wear, I would estimate, on one of these systems. And if you ever have a battery that wears out, it's really easy to just change it if that's part of its initial design. You don't have to have an electrician or a technician service the system. It's user changeable, number one. So for longevity, that's really handy. Number two, you can customize it. So if you want to have, we actually had a customer. Well, actually, we could skip ahead to it, but we had someone on our live stream last week said that they want to get a Flex system for their 27-foot RV. It was Dana Daniels.
Right.
And so for her RV, she was trying to figure out how many batteries would be necessary to run it correctly. And that's kind of like, that's what's so awesome about a modular system. You can add a second battery, a third battery to get that extra storage. And when you're adding those batteries, you're going to want to charge it faster. which is where the supercharger comes in, so you can make sure your charge time stays nice and low. You can add more solar panels to your array. So it's just really having that flexibility of being able to customize your battery storage and keep your charge times low and have something that's going to be a very, very long-term, product that can grow with you.
Yeah. So. Okay, here's a good question. Well, actually, you know what? Before I do this one from John Moyer, John, I'm going to come back to you, but this is probably the best time to talk about, because that was one of the questions, was what is the MPPT supercharger? Some people, we've actually been getting calls, some people thinking, is it an extra battery? How does it actually work? And so let's spend a little bit extra time. The MPPT supercharger is basically another module that has two 20 amp, 90 volt,
30 amp.
Sorry.
30 amp.
30 amp.
30 amp.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah. 30 amp, 90 volt input, max input, MPPT superchargers, MPPT charge controllers in it. So you can actually add 2 additional solar arrays. And before I misquote another spec, Jared, you want to jump in and tell them why it's cool that they can add different solar arrays?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just for the sake of clarity, what the supercharger does, it does not, by virtue of having a supercharger, does not make your batteries charge faster.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a fully integrated, you know what I mean? Like just by having it makes your battery charge faster. What the supercharger does is it gives you the opportunity to add 2 more solar panel strings to your battery, to your entire system, and thereby charge it faster. So it gives you the capability of expanding more solar charging. That's the purpose behind the supercharger. Now we've got a couple of different things that we can do with that. Because it does have a 90 volt input, you can put 4 100 watt solar panels in series and get up to that 90 volt threshold thereabouts to have a very efficient fast charge. If you want to have a parallel connection, you can put as many panels as you want in parallel as long as you're under that 90 volt threshold, and that will make sure that your system is always charging at the fastest possible rate. And that's just with a standard power station that already has 1 solar input on it. If you add the supercharger on there, you've got 2 more inputs you can do that with, and again, just maximize more solar charging. So really the supercharger is all about adding more solar panel strings to your system, having that opportunity to do so.
Awesome. Thank you. So back to John Moyer. Can you solar charge the Flex battery 24/7, 365 without battery degradation?
Great question. That is no, you can't actually.
Yes.
Short answer, no.
No.
So lithium batteries should not be stored long term at maximum voltage. They really want to stay and store more around their nominal voltage of around 11 volts. That's where these batteries last the longest. Now, can they be stored at full charge? Yeah, absolutely. It will degrade your battery. So if you leave it connected to solar panels all the time, the benefit of that is that your battery will always be topped off and ready to go. The cost of that is going to be battery degradation. Now, there's a lot of discussion about exactly what kind of degradation that does cause in a lithium battery. I've seen some studies that have cited as high as 15% in 1 year if you kept it at full charge for that entire year.
Wow.
So it does degrade your battery life expectancy somewhat, but it really depends on the temperature that it's stored under and all those kinds of things. So to answer your question, simply put, can you do it? Yes. Will it degrade the battery? Yes. Would we recommend it? Probably not. We would recommend storing it at a partial state of charge, but it depends on your use. I mean, if you're in a hurricane zone, for instance, it might be worth storing it at full charge for 3 months out of the year. That's probably a fair compromise. So it's kind of up to the individual user.
And that, his follow-up question, also, what is the best way to give the Flex battery a long life? You kind of answered that. It really likes to be in that 50% charge range when it's in storage, and that will give you the longest life as far as storage, but there are other things that you can do. There are other things that will either give you a longer life or a shorter life, Yeah, absolutely. So with, and this is the same for all lithium batteries. This is not unique to the Flex battery. It's just all lithium batteries.
Number one, the temperature that it's stored and used under, that affects life expectancy quite a bit. So if you can keep it, obviously batteries love to be at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not always possible, but try to keep it away from those temperature extremes. Like no hotter than 115, no colder than 20 degrees Fahrenheit. When you get towards those extreme edges, that's where you start having battery degradation. So number one, keep the temperature in check. Number two, keep the state of charge around nominal voltage, around 11 volts when you're storing it for long periods of time. Emphasis on long periods. Can you store it at full charge for a couple weeks or a month? Yeah, no problem. But for long term, if you know you're going to be storing it, store it at a lower state of charge. And then number three, how quickly you charge it and how quickly you discharge it also dramatically affect battery life expectancy. So moderate loads are obviously easier on the battery, like in that 3, 4, 500 watt range. Those are really, really easy for one flex battery. You can go all the way up to the maximum discharge rate of 1500 watts continuously with the battery, and it will do that just fine, but it is going to decrease your life expectancy in terms of cycle life. Now, a quick note that I want to add on though. All those examples that I just gave are assuming there's only one flex battery on the stack. The more batteries that you add, the more that load is distributed over several batteries, and that actually taxes them less. So the more batteries you add to the system when it comes to powering your devices, that actually reduces strain on the battery. So if you have 2 batteries, 3 batteries, something like that, you're going to be able to discharge that faster at like that 1500 watt range and not have a negative impact. And then obviously charging it too. You don't want to always be redlining your system to get the longest life expectancy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. There was another question, and I'm missing it. It might have been over on YouTube. Somebody was asking, how long will the flex battery, last? Or I got to find the exact words, but basically they wanted to know. It was another question about how long will it last at 1500 watts discharge.
Good question. Okay, so that would be essentially maximum discharge rate when you're using it, and then maximum charge rate when you're charging it, right? Good question. Again, a lot of that is going to depend on what voltage you've stored the thing at, how long you've owned it, what temperature it's stored at, the state of charge. All those things play into this. This is it's kind of like rating fuel economy in a vehicle. How many people are in the car? Are you going uphill or downhill? What elevation are you at? What cabin appliances are you using? AC, heat, radio, all those kinds of things. What type of fuel are you using? All of that impacts it. So there's no real cut and dried answer. In general, what I could tell you was if you're going full discharge, maximum discharge, full maximum charge input all the time, you may get 400 to 500 cycles out of that battery. With more moderate use, you might say, you could stretch that out to 2,000 cycles very, very easily.
Okay. And that was Rosie Souza. And the exact way she asked it was, how long will a full battery last if you use 1500 watts continuously? So maybe I didn't quite communicate that.
She's
exactly.
thinking more about how long will it power a 1500 watt continuous load.
That's probably, one battery.
Yeah, one battery. Okay, I can answer that question too. In general terms, I would expect that with one 1069 watt hour battery at a 1500 watt discharge, you're probably going to last somewhere in like that 35 to 40 minute range because you're outputting at 1500 watts with an 1100 watt, 1069 watt hour battery storage. So it's not going to last a full hour. I'd expect it somewhere on that 40-ish minutes range for one battery. Now, if you were to add a second battery, you double that time. A quick note, our inverter is rated to discharge up to 80% of the battery's capacity at the maximum discharge rate. So just kind of factor that in when you're doing that math. But in general, I would expect about 40-ish minutes at a max discharge.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Sandra Zasek. Sandra, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Asked how the images, if we have images of how the stacks of 5 will be attached, and it's actually the same as the images in. We have some video that shows 3 modules stacking. They stack vertically, And then if you have an additional stack of 5, there's going to be a base plate with a cable that will allow you to attach to the first stack, and they all stack vertically. Do we have video of that available to show? And thank you, Cody. And and basically the question you have there about, without blocking vents and fans, they're actually, all the vents and fans are on the side, and so when the modules stack, those fans are not occluded or blocked or anything, and the airflow will work just as it's designed, as long as you keep your system in a ventilated area. You don't want to put the system into a box that is exactly the size of the system. Would that be accurate? Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay.
Let's answer this one from Chris that just came in.
Okay.
So Chris asked, can the Flex system ever enter a state in which it shuts down completely and needs to be reset? If so, how do you reset it? Great question. Not needed. If it does enter any kind of like a shutdown state, that question's probably coming from the Kodiak. So the Kodiak did need to be reset in kind of a funky procedure to get it done back when we had that product. The Flex system auto resets. So simply by turning the system on, it'll reset itself. It does not require anything additional on top of that. It's self-resetting.
Okay, nice. Okay, let's see. Let's jump over here. Why should I be concerned about portability? That's an interesting question. Like, if portability is not a big deal to you, then it's not, and that's okay. This system is designed to not only be modular and versatile and adaptable, but also portable. It weighs significantly less than any other product of a similar rating. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah. So just a quick personal experience, I would say. I don't know if you're new customers of ours, you may not be aware of this, but after Hurricane Maria, we flew down to Puerto Rico. We did what's called our Empower Puerto Rico project, where we had a window of, I can't remember what it was, 2 weeks, I believe, where for every system sold, we donated a system to a family in Puerto Rico in their name as a humanitarian effort to help bring power back to Puerto Rico. Now the funny thing is, at the time we were selling what was called the Kodiak. It was a 25-pound system, and at the time we were 20-pound system.
That's right.
At the time we were so much lighter than everything else out there, and that's lighter than what we sell now. But ours is significantly higher performance than the Kodiak was. But when we were in Puerto Rico, we were so proud of our 20-pound system being so lightweight. And then when we got there to Puerto Rico to actually begin placing these in recipients' homes, we found out that there's a lot of folks out there that struggle with even a 20-pound system. Like, it was so eye-opening to me to see folks try to even tote around a 20-pound system. And that was incredibly lightweight. But it was still possible for them, whereas like the Briggs and Stratton fuel-based generators that FEMA had placed in recipients' homes after Maria were completely incapable of being moved. So in I guess short, what that taught me was what's lightweight to one person isn't always lightweight to another, and being able to actually use these systems and get them to where you need them to be used, that's important. So portability for that reason, I would say, is key, especially in like a grid down scenario. If you're in like a natural disaster, something like that, having that ability to be portable and take power with you, we think that's vital.
Yeah. So that's great. Thank you. So here's another one that came in this week. Do I have to switch manually when I want to charge with the car or with PV? And for those who may not know, PV, they're talking about photovoltaics, solar panels. So I think they're asking if they have to switch on the Flex, if they have to switch manually when they want to charge with a car or with DC from a car or with solar.
Great question. Those are separate inputs. So you've got on a power station, you've got a solar input that's going to be on the power console itself. And then your car charger would actually plug into the Flex battery. So you could run both of those things simultaneously, no problem at all.
Okay, I think I might know what they're talking about. It just dawned on me. I think there are other systems maybe where you actually have to change a setting you have to tell the system what kind of charging you're doing, whether it's from the car or from solar.
Oh, right.
And you don't have to do that with the Flex. It detects it automatically. And in fact, you can do both at the same time. So that's kind of cool. All right, we already hit the supercharger.
We had just a couple of just real fast questions I wanted to hit. Somebody asked if we're using prismatic cells or 18650s. We are using 18650 lithium battery cells. We're using LG 18650s.
Yeah.
And then Rosie, just another quick question from Rosie. If I add a second battery, do I have to get the supercharger, or can I add the Flex with 2 batteries without the supercharger? In essence, do I need to get the supercharger if I buy a second battery? No. You could easily just get the second battery. Supercharger is not required. And in fact, I think about half of our customers don't even use solar panels, don't even purchase solar panels when they purchase a system from us. So yeah, no requirement to get that supercharger if you add a second battery.
Is it fair to say? Well, I know the answer. Solar panels are the fastest way to charge these things. That's just
absolutely
hands down.
Absolutely. You know, actually, on that, Orlando in Puerto Rico just asked a question.
Hey, Orlando.
Hey, man. How are you? What is the maximum amount of superchargers you can add to the Flex system? That is a really good question. If you have one battery, you can add one supercharger. So for every battery you add, you can pair it with one supercharger and scale that way. In essence, you can't have 2 superchargers per battery, only one supercharger per battery. That keeps you at about a 1-hour charge time.
Excellent. Thank you. Can the charging unit be used alone to charge the batteries? John Webb. Thank you, John. I'm going to say yes. The Flex battery on the left side panel has a 5.5 by 2.5 millimeter input plug where you can plug a wall charger, a standard Inergy wall charger in to charge that battery separately. And you can also charge with using that plug, like I just mentioned, with a car charger, and you can use either of those two and solar at the same time. I feel like I'm hitting that point a little bit too much today. Dual charge sources.
Yeah,
yes.
We got that.
Okay, we got it. Okay. Let's see. This is from Danielle Margot from last week's live stream, and she asked us to explain watt hours. That's probably worth, just a quick explanation.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do that, or should I?
I'll take it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, appliances, devices, refrigerators, anything that we use that uses power has a power consumption rating that's rated in watts. And what that's referring to is how many watts that device consumes over a 1-hour period. So the term watt hours is kind of confusing to a lot of people, I think. Watt hours refers to energy storage is a more correct way of saying that. So if you look at a product that uses, says it's a 1,000 watt device, like a blow dryer or something like that, 1,000 watts. That means that if you power that thing on at maximum, you'll be consuming 1,000 watts over the course of 1 hour. If you have a 1,069 watt hour battery, that means that you can draw from that battery 1,069 watts and get that full capacity in 1 hour. So if you had that in that example, all things being a perfect world with no inefficiencies and things of that nature, you'd be able to power that 1,000 watt load for just over an hour. Mm-hmm. But that's essentially what it is. Watts is a expression of power consumption, and watt hours is an expression of energy storage.
Yep. Smash Brawler just asked, can I store the unit fully charged? And we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. But yes, you can. If you store it fully charged perpetually and keep it fully charged, it will begin to degrade the lifespan of your battery. Okay. Let's see.
Henry Rosa asked a cool question over on YouTube that I want to address.
Yeah, okay.
When the battery is at full charge on solar, does the solar bypass the battery directly to the inverter? Great question, Henry. So essentially, if your battery is full, does solar power bypass the battery to go right to the inverter? No. All power flows from the solar charge controller or from any charge source to the battery first, and then from the battery to your outlets, whether they're AC or DC.
That's a good question, though. I actually never thought about that.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. How do you dispose of the batteries? I have not been asked that one before. You're going to have to do this one.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. We've had this come up from time to time. They can be recycled. So lithium batteries can be taken to most transfer stations, like a local dump or that kind of a thing. But they're not actually dumping them in the earth. They're recycling them. So when you drop off a lithium battery at a transfer station, call them first, ask them if they can recycle them. If they can, take them there. Don't just take them to like a local landfill or something of that nature. Also, a lot of the big box retailers like Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware retailers, they do offer lithium recycling there as well. Again, just call those big box retailers or your local transfer station and ask them if they recycle lithium batteries. Every time we've had a customer that's asked us that question, we've actually been able to help them locate a recycling area to take them to have lithium batteries recycled. So
awesome. Nelson Ocasio. Nelson, good to see you again. He asked a good one here. How long would 500 watts take to charge the Flex? Also, what would the time be with an additional battery pack on the same 500 watts? Make sure I understand that. I understand the first part. How long would 500 watts take to charge the Flex? In ideal sun conditions, you're going to do the actual math, which is the responsible thing to do. I was going to guess around 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's like 2.7 hours.
Okay.
In ideal conditions.
Ideal conditions.
Again, that's ideal conditions. If you were to add a second lithium battery, it'd just double, so you'd be just over 5 hours. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Good question, Nelson. Thanks. All right. Let's see. Let's jump over here.
Now, one thing I want to call out, because he's probably going to look at that math and go, "Wait, that doesn't add up." There's a reason for that. So the Flex system has, as long as you're under that 90 volt threshold. Again, I feel like I'm probably hitting that a little too hard, and I apologize for that. But if you're under that 90 volt threshold, it doesn't matter how many watts of panels you put on the Flex system.
Right.
So you could put 500, 600, 800, 1,000 watts of solar onto that. And what it's going to do is support the maximum charge rate going from the charge controller to the battery at a rate of 400 watts. So if you put 500 watts on there, it's going to allow that 400 watt charge to happen in more conditions. In other words, if you were to have, to get that maximum charge rate, if you only had 400 watts of panels, you would have to be tracking the sun throughout the day by moving your panels probably every 30 minutes and making sure that your panels are optimized for the angle of the sun at that given time. That's really arduous.
Not shaded.
No shading. In fact, we actually had a question from another person asked about shading with solar panels. It does cut their output quite a bit. I would expect by at least 50%. So it makes a big impact on solar production.
Even a small amount on one panel,
right?
Yep. Really knock that panel down.
Yep, exactly.
That's another good question about that. We have another good question about panels.
From Sandra.
Yeah. No, wait. Which one are you talking about?
I'm on Facebook. So Sandra said, I thought the Flex was limited to 4 100 watt panels. Great question, Sandra. So it is rated to 4 100 watt panels if they're in series. That's the crucial point. In series, the voltage adds up, amperage stays the same. So if you plan on connecting 4 third-party panels that are MC4, those are a series connection typically. That would be a limit of 4 100 watt panels in series. However, if you connected those 4 panels in parallel, like our Solar Storm series or our Lynx series of panels, you could put as many panels as you want on there to make sure you're always maintaining that 400 watt charge rate. Now that's without a supercharger. You add a supercharger on there, you've got 2 more solar inputs, and you can triple your solar productivity.
So you could add 800 watts across two additional arrays.
Yeah, and Orlando kind of asked a kin question. what is the supercharger's max charging current on the battery side, it's going to be the same as the charge input on the standard power console, 30 amps or 400 watts per input on the supercharger. So if you add those up, you're looking at about 90 amps combined, or what would that be?
1200
watts.
1200 watts.
Yeah, 1200 watts.
Input with one. If you add batteries and add more another supercharger with additional solar panel arrays, then you're starting to get into some crazy charge rates. So there was one other question. Somebody asked about can I mix solar panels? So can I have some solar panels of my own, and then if I buy your Ascent panels, which are wired in series, can I add an Ascent panel into the mix? And the answer is yes. Again, as long as the total voltage is under 90 volts.
Yep. Now, if you wanted to get one of our new Ascent panels and add that into one of our pre-existing solar panel lines, wiring is going to be a little bit tricky because they're different connectors. So if you want to do something like that, definitely call our support team up and have them help you through it. But yeah, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. From last time, Paul Herrera asked, "What's the weather ratings on connectors and new panels?" I'm not sure if he's talking about just the new panels or he's talking about weather ratings on all of our connectors. But on the new panels, the Ascent panels, they are MC4 panels, which are the gold standard for weather rating. And then on our, you want to take the EC8 as far as okay.
So the MC4s are IP68. That's a
that's why you need to answer that one.
IP68. So that's for dust and water inclusion. They're a very, very robust connector. The EC8 we've actually taken. I wish I had one with me that I could show. I should have brought one of those for that question. The EC8 connector itself, we've weather sealed the back of it, so that on the back half where it meets the cable that comes in from the solar panel. Hey, thanks, Cody. Perfect. I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't, but we've got this thing completely sealed for water inclusion on the back side of it. So while these EC8s are connected one to another, you're not going to have any water inclusion coming from the panel itself. And then this connection right here, if you've ever tried it, it's incredibly tight. Yeah. They're actually it's kind of a pain to pull them apart because they're really snug.
They can be annoying, but they are very powerful connectors.
Yeah. Now, for the sake of CYA, I guess you could say, I can't IP rate this because we haven't done an IP standardization test. So I can't specify that, but I can say that these things are extremely water resistant. So,
and if you want to do permanent connections outdoors with those, you can connect them and then just use a good marine grade heat shrink over the connection, and you basically would be totally covered for weather resistance at that point, and UV resistance as well. That little sleep, did you mention? You probably did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I should listen better. Okay. Simon Lung. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, man. We love you. If I have the Flex DC station, can I connect a 600 watt pure sine wave inverter by using the Anderson connection?
Great question. So the Flex DC has two Anderson outputs on the front of it. Those Anderson outputs, I believe, are rated to 30 amps, 30 amps per, which is going to be less than 600 watts. If you were to combine the two of them, you could get there, but it wouldn't be. That's going to be a little bit tricky because of the regulated output maximum. You're going to pass that threshold. So simple answer, Simon, I would say no. I would say that 600 watt pure sine wave inverter is probably going to be too much for it.
Okay.
If you were more in like that 400 to 500 watt range, I'd be a lot more comfortable. So.
Yeah. Okay. Jeffrey Harris just asked about panel efficiency. I do not know the answer to this one.
That depends on the solar panel. I'd have to pull up the spec sheets again. I think we've got it listed on our website. If we don't, we'll add it. But solar panel efficiency, all that refers to is the surface area required to generate a specified amount of power. So like our new Ascent panels are monocrystalline. They're our most efficient solar panel line. I believe they're in that 20% range, 21%, something like that. Again, I can double back. I'll reply in the comments later when I have the numbers in front of me. But all that refers to is less surface area to generate the same amount of the specified amount of solar power. So a 20-watt solar panel or a 100-watt solar panel that's 20% efficient will be smaller than a 100-watt solar panel that's 15% efficient.
Okay. All right.
Actually, on that note, Lee actually had that question. I'm going to answer Lee's question.
Okay.
So Lee, you asked, you have 3 different panels for your kits. Can you differentiate between the 3? What are the major differences? Great question. So the first panel that we have, this is our Lynx solar panel. This one, again, this is another monocrystalline panel, but it's very thin. I don't know if you can see that very well from that webcam, but it's fractions of an inch thick on the panel itself. On the junction box up here, it's probably, well, we've actually got the spec on the website. I believe it's just under an inch. But this is a very, very small, thin, portable panel. It does have a little bit of flex to it. The purpose behind this panel is portability. That's the emphasis for this panel. The other panel that we have is a solar storm panel, or the storm panel. That's a more traditional. Thanks, Cody. It's a more traditional solar panel. It's tempered glass, has an aluminum frame. Again, just a very common solar panel, I guess you could say. The purpose behind this panel is going to be maximizing your dollar. So this is the cheapest price per watt way of getting solar power into one of our power stations. And then the newest solar panel that we have is this guy right here. This is the Ascent. I'm not going to unbuckle it because it'd be kind of a mess to try to do, hand holding it. But this is a folding suitcase style solar panel. Folds in half, generates 100 watts. It does have its own built-in kickstand. And the purpose of this one is twofold. Number one, it's extremely useful to have that super portable design with its own kickstand. That's really important. Number one. So for using it off-grid, it's super handy. Number two, that is a panel that has MC4 connectors on it. So if you want to do a higher voltage string to get to that 90 volt range for the controller, you can do so with the Ascent. Mm-hmm. That'll help you get up to the most efficient charge possible. So,
thanks, Lee. That was a good question.
Chris. Smash. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Chris is helping out. Thanks, man. Oh, yeah. Actually, I was going to answer. That was the next question I was going to answer was Smash Ballers, but Chris is all over it for us. Is there a minimum? This is Ivan Nichols. Thanks, Ivan. Is there a minimum percentage of energy that must be left in the battery? Does draining them beyond a certain point affect lifespan?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a battery management system that manages all of the lithium batteries in our Flex battery, and that will do a hard disconnect if it gets below a certain threshold to prevent damage. So you're no longer able to output power and actually hurt the battery. Now the worst case scenario, because all batteries do have a self-discharge rate. Now lithium 18650 cells like these LG ones that we use in the Flex battery, they have a very, very small self-discharge rate, but a worst case scenario would be you discharge the battery as far as you can to what the LCD would say is 0% remaining, and then you store it for a year. That would be the worst case scenario. If you go below a certain voltage threshold, there is the chance that you're not going to be able to recharge that battery ever again. Now, our management system prevents that from happening during use, but during storage, that can still occur. So that's why it's important that you don't store it like a 0% or a 5% state of charge.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a great question. I've got another cool one here from Scott R. Hess. Thanks, Scott. Would you recommend the DC or AC, so the Flex DC or the Flex 1500 system for a houseboat? And I would say that depends on what you want to do on your houseboat. Or is that totally wrong?
No, I think that the utility of having the Flex 1500 would be handy because you'd have access to both AC and DC power. That said, because you're in a marine environment, sticking with a DC voltage, a lower DC voltage is going to be a safer alternative for water inclusion in the system. In essence, if you had water with an AC inverter, you could have some serious issues, with injury and that kind of a thing. But that's in the case of a misuse or abuse type scenario. So for a houseboat, one thing that I will say for the Flex DC that I covered this in our last live stream, and I want to make sure it's front and center for this question, is that there is a massive ecosystem of 12-volt appliances that are super energy efficient that are perfect for use with the Flex DC. We're talking about hot plates, crock pots, coffee pots, refrigerators, vacuums, fans, everything that we think of that we traditionally use around the home. You can find DC only versions. In fact, a brand of that is Road Pro. They're a great company. In fact, you can probably buy them at your local truck stop. But those are great ways of accomplishing tasks usually done by much higher output appliances. So for that reason, if it was me, I would probably go the Flex DC and then get some awesome DC appliances to support that.
So Rosie Souza just asked, what does the 1500 mean in the name Flex 1500? Great question, Rosie. That is indicating the output, the continuous output of the inverter. It is a 1500 watt continuous inverter with a 3000 watt surge. So that's where that name came from. Jared, this isn't a question, but this is something that we promised that we were going to do this time. We promised that we were going to tell everybody about one of those Easter eggs. And somehow, I don't know what's going on here, but somehow Brooke Black has scooped us and already knows about it. What's going on here? Brooke, you are correct. There is a transfer switch. Jared, do you want to tell them about that?
Yeah, we'll give just a small update on that. So we have a power switch that will allow you to hook a Flex 1500 power station up to a handful of circuits on your home. So it's a transfer switch that will require an electrician to install. But if you get that done, you can use your Flex 1500 with whatever battery storage you want to have hooked into that and actually power the circuits in your home that you choose. Yeah. So we have that coming. We'll unroll that here in the next week or two. I'm not sure how you found out about it so early, Brooke. But yeah, that's one of our Easter eggs. So we do have a home connection kit, essentially, that we're going to be unrolling here in the next 2 weeks. So we're really, really excited about that. And that will really just expand, the opportunity for the Flex 1500, for home use.
Yep. And that there's more coming. So please stay tuned. Okay, let's see. I've got a question here from Don Montana. I live in PR, Puerto Rico. Hey, Don. I have 400 watt fixed solar panels on the roof. Does storage mean disconnecting the MC4 connector, I'm guessing? Or is there such a thing as an MC4 connector?
No, there's not. Okay. Just typo, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah. Connector, or just simply turning the Flex unit off?
Good question, Don. You would want to disconnect the solar input cable from the Flex or from the Apex or whatever one of our power stations you have. You'll want to do a hard disconnect by pulling that solar input out of the system itself.
Greg Agri, great question here. I love it. I love these kind of questions because this is this is all about what you can do with these things. Hey guys, so we want to be able to run our fridge and camp lights and stuff like that. How do we know how much battery we need?
That is a good question. There's really two ways that we can accomplish that. Number one, look at the appliances or the things that you want to power, and on the back of them, by where the power cord is, there's always going to be a power consumption tag that's stuck on the back of that. I would focus on the big things like the refrigerator. Camp lights, if they're base camp lights, which would be awesome if they were. As long as they're LED, they're super energy efficient. I wouldn't be too concerned about powering those. I think our Flex battery can power a base camp LED for something like 180 plus hours. Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous because it's LED, right? It's very energy efficient. But look at your various devices and look at their power consumption tags on the back of it. Add that together, and that will give you how much power you're going to need over the course of 1 hour, and then just decide on how many hours per day you want to run that. That's option number one. Option number two, for the Flex 1500, we actually just finished a spec sheet that we'll publish. I don't think we've published that yet, have we?
No.
Okay. So we just published a spec sheet that gives a good baseline of expectation for various devices. We've got run times that are estimated for a 20 cubic foot refrigerator that's basic with like a freezer on top and a fridge on bottom, as well as a more advanced premium type refrigerator that's a 25 cubic foot, in fact, that has like ice in the door, water in the door, freezer on bottom, French doors that open. So we've got run times for that with one battery estimated. We've got laptops, CPAPs, lights, TVs, in fact, electric blankets, things of that nature. So that'll kind of help you give a rough estimation of what you could expect.
Yep.
And then I guess the third way would be to buy it and try it. And that's probably going to be the most accurate way, but it's also not the best to help inform your purchase decision. So I would say we'll publish that spec sheet here this week, and that will help you get a general feel, but look at your various devices on the back by the power cord and see what their power consumption is, and then just add it up.
And if after doing all of that, feel free to call us. Call our tech support guys, and they can talk you through. They'll ask you what kind of devices you're looking to power, and they can help you. They're good that way.
Eric has a cool one.
Yeah, we got to read Eric.
Okay,
Eric Porter, nice question.
Yeah, Eric says, I'm an RVer. I bought the Apex and 5 Link solar panels. Excited about expanding. I ordered 4 Flex batteries, supercharger. I just lost his.
And the connector for Apex to Flex batteries. My plan is to have 2 expanded batteries connected and 2 getting charged on the supercharger. Should my plan work?
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Flex batteries can charge independent of a power console using a supercharger, so that will work 100%. Then having 2 connected to the Apex, and you could actually have those charging with the Apex at the same time. That's a super cool use case.
That is cool.
I think that would work awesome. Honestly, send us pictures.
Yeah, Eric, please send us some pictures.
That'd be awesome.
A video of that. We'll, that's pretty cool. All right, Rosie Souza. Rosie, thank you. On the Flex Silver Kit, if I purchase an additional battery, do I need to add 2 more Ascent solar panels? On the Flex Silver Kit, so she's got
2.
2 already.
2 Ascent panels, so if she got an extra battery, it's going to cut your charge time in half.
Yeah.
If you do that. Is it required? No.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But if you've got an additional battery, you know what I would say? This whole product category is designed to be modular for a reason. So I would say start with what you've got and then see if it meets your needs. If it doesn't, you've always got that chance to add additional panels. So no reason to jump the gun just yet. You could easily just give it a go, and I would think you'd probably be okay. But if you want to charge the entire system reliably in one day of good sun, then you'd want to add 2 panels. But it really depends on your individual need and use.
And Greg, I saw your follow-up, that you're planning to buy after this, and thank you, obviously. But I will publish that spec sheet tonight, so that you've got that. After this, I'll put it on Facebook. And again, man, feel free to call our guys, our team. They're not all guys. They're just really smart people, and they'll help you out. They're really nice. 877-891-2657. I did not have to look at the door. This is fun. I like talking to people.
I'm going to take one quick question from Orlando Hernandez. He says he's in Puerto Rico, ordered the Flex Gold system, sad it's going to have to wait until October. I need it faster. Hurricanes are sooner. Philip also asked how's the October date looking with everything going on? Don't worry, we won't hold you to it. It's kind of funny to see those two like back to back. One person who really needs it sooner because of hurricane season, and another who's like giving us the get out of jail free card. So appreciate both those comments. As of right now, the October timeline is still looking good. We don't have any obstructions that we can see right now. With COVID, we're watching this thing incredibly closely because there has been some new outbreaks in China that are a little bit disruptive. Yeah. But as of right now, we don't see anything that would preclude us from hitting that date. Orlando in Puerto Rico for that Flex Gold system. Sorry you have to wait until October, man. We really wanted to have this thing available in the summertime, but the coronavirus just really crippled supply lines and has caused a lot of these longer delays. Yeah. So I empathize, and I wish we could get it sooner too.
There's a couple of good questions over on YouTube, and I just want to address them really quickly. Jack Walsh is actually asking about a GovX discount app. Jack, the answer is yes. Either you can do it on the website or you can give us a call.
Yeah.
And Harley Canine asked, this is a good question, and it deserves an answer. I am concerned with the 1500 watt inverter. Why the ability to have so much power, add-on in parentheses, add-on batteries, if you're limited to a 1500 watt inverter?
That's a great question. Again, it really just kind of depends on what your intended use is going to be. Having the opportunity to add a 3 kilowatt hours of battery storage with a 1500 watt continuous discharge rate, that's not that different than a standard wall outlet, in like a traditional home circuit. That's why the 1500 watt inverter size is so common, because it will run most things like what a traditional wall outlet would. So being able to do that kind of a thing for longer extended amounts of time with adding battery, that's why we chose that. And again, it's a very common inverter size. We're very confident we like it a lot, and just being able to run those devices for longer. Yeah, I guess I don't know if that answers the question or not, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you need to run things that are going to pull, if you need to run for a long period of time, things that are going to draw more power than 1500 watts, this power console is probably not the right power console for you.
Yep.
And the thing that's great about the Flex, and we mentioned this last time, and we're always going to mention, is when you're buying into the Flex Modular System, you're buying into an ecosystem that is going to go on for years and years and years. And there are going to be new products. There are going to be new additions and improvements made. We are pushing really, really hard. We have an awesome engineering team, and they are pushing the envelope as fast and as hard as they can, so that we are on the forefront of innovation. But it's a fair question. We want to give you a fair answer. Let's see. MH on YouTube is saying, I'm new to solar. I live in Orlando, preparing for hurricane season. How many of the Flex batteries would I need to run my refrigerator, a 5,000 BTU AC, and a 50-inch TV? Well,
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I don't think the Flex is going to be capable of doing that. But 5,000 BTU AC, that's what's going to be the big. That's going to be a major draw. AC units are very difficult for a power station such as this to run. In fact, with any kind of a battery solution, you're really not going to get there. You could probably run it for a short amount of time, but the ability to run something that's that big of a power hog, you'd have to have a pretty massive solar array as well as a big battery array and a large inverter. So you're probably talking about more like an off-grid solar system.
Like a home.
Like a home-based one.
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted to specify just the refrigerator and the TV, and then maybe occasional AC use on like a low or a medium setting, that might be in the realm of possibility. But you'd want to look at your various the model-specific power consumption on the back of the product to give us what the wattage consumption is. Add that together, give our team a call. That's probably going to be the best way to handle that situation.
Yeah, so. I know somebody who has a similar situation to you, and they don't have a full independent off-grid home solar system with battery backup and everything. They have a portable system. If you're talking about a portable system like the Flex, the refrigerator, the TV, those kind of things, those work very well. My friend does a 5,000, I don't know if it's a 5,000 BTU AC. He has an AC unit. He wants to run it. He runs it on a gas generator. So, okay. Paul Lee asked the question, And this did come up last time. We'll answer this as many times as we need to, though, Paul. Thank you for chiming in. If I use the full power of 1500 watts continuously, the machine turns off after a little over 3 minutes. So Inergy recommends 550 watt. How about the new Flex model?
Sure. Yeah, Paul, you must be talking about the Apex or the Kodiak. So again, with that system, we spec that at a 1500 watt peak inverter output. The Flex is a 1500 watt continuous inverter output. So we had a lot of, we spec'd the Apex and the Kodiak in such a way to protect battery life expectancy. That was really the core of it. We did not anticipate that customers were going to be wanting to draw 1500 watts continuously from one 1100 watt hour battery storage device. We didn't offer a solution for battery expansion with the Apex at the time. So it was kind of a surprise that people would want to pull something that heavy that quickly on a more regular basis. So we put limitations on the system to prevent degradation to the battery caused by operating at maximum discharge. Now on the Flex, we've completely addressed that. So we heard loud and clear from our customers, they want a 1500 watt continuous maximum discharge rate. We have addressed that on the Flex completely. So the way that we spec the Flex right now with the inverter specifically is you can expend up to 80% of your battery capacity at a maximum discharge rate of 1500 watts continuously with the inverter. Now, if you mix and match DC and AC power, you could go obviously much beyond that with a 1500 watt discharge for more than that of the battery. But yeah, the Flex completely addresses that, and it will run that 1500 watt continuous load for 80% of the battery capacity.
Yep. Okay, there's another good question here. Mark Ajami asks, can I use this in my mobile home? Yes, Mark. We have this. This is a NEMA TT-R30 adapter. You can use this. You can plug it into any of the AC outlets on the Flex 1500, and you can use this, obviously with your RV shore power cord. I do this in my own trailer, and I run everything except my AC, and I have a little 700 watt microwave. Actually, it does pretty well on it, but everything but my AC I run on my Apex, and I'll be doing the same thing when I've got my Flex. Would you add anything to that?
No.
Okay. Perfect. Wow, this has been great. Jared, I think we've been going for a little over an hour here. We want to thank everybody for joining us, and let me just double check to make sure that we have got everybody taken care of here.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty proactive on
it. If we miss something, we are going to go through it, and we'll pull down we'll record the questions for the next time we get together. I just want to thank all of you for coming and giving us a chance to answer your questions, and for getting to know us. We're Inergy. We're here in Pocatello, Idaho. We feel like we're a family here, and when you buy our products, you join our family. And so we're really grateful for you guys coming on and spending time with us today.
Yeah, again, thank you for tuning in and watching. For your questions, your engagement, the tough questions, the hard questions, the easy questions, all of it, it's all good. We appreciate all the feedback that we get. That's what helps us improve, honestly. Yeah. And then the other thing I want to say is we've had a lot of people that have said, hey, I just ordered this. I just submitted my pre-order. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate that as an individual and as a team, how much we appreciate these pre-orders, because that's a vote of confidence for us that we don't take lightly, and we greatly appreciate it. I mean, it really makes a big difference for us, and we're so excited to get these products shipped out to you guys and see you guys power. So thank you again for tuning in and participating.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.